It's probably obvious to anyone who looks at my YouTube channel that I love to metal detect. It's also obvious that I also love anything to do with Arduinos and to build robots. Up until a few years ago, about 2014, I'd never even heard of an Arduino until I stumbled across a video by I believe it's Bob Rudolph. Anyway, in this video, he is demonstrating his Sentry gun, and of course running all around, being chased by it. And I was impressed to say the least. And I looked at that and I thought, I have got to build this thing. And of course, all it uses a laptop, a Logitech camera, and an Arduino and some servos. And what it does is it actually tracks the person, and then of course shoots him with the airsoft gun. Well, I knew a little bit about programming. I've got a degree in computer information systems, but I knew nothing about microprocessors or anything to do with robotics. So it seemed like an impossible task. But eventually, after several months of just immersing myself in all these YouTube videos and everything, anything to do with Arduino, I finally started on my own project, Sentry Gun. And so anyway, it wasn't long after this, after I actually did wind up building this this project Sentry Gun, that anyway I wound up kind of catching the bug, and I was able to actually finish this project and get a gun going and everything. And it was really great to my amazement that everything worked. And so anyway, after that, I just caught the Arduino bug and started building other projects. Some were copies of other people's stuff. Some were kind of modifications of other people's project, and some of them were my own inventions. Um, so So anyway, during this time, I was still metal detecting and everything, and kept on thinking how cool it would be able to build my own metal detecting robot. If you think about it, metal detecting is pretty straightforward. I mean, all you're doing is you're walking in a straight line. When you get down to the end of your path, you turn, you move over a few feet, and you walk in another straight line, and just keep repeating the same process over and over again. But to me at the time, it seemed kind of like an impossible project. So I started looking for videos on YouTube, hoping that someone else had already invented this, robot, and that all I would have to do is just, copy it and repeat it. But unfortunately, there wasn't anybody else out there who had really invented anything like this, or anything that was, reasonable, I guess you can say. Some of them, there was some, but the ones that were out there, they were either way too complicated, whereas like with some university or something like that had made one, um, or it just didn't work at all. They were really small robots, and they would never be able to be used outdoors. So anyway, I was kind of left to think, okay, well, I'm gonna have to do this project all on my own. So that's kind of what started all this. So in order to start this project, what I went to was YouTube, trying to find ideas about how best to build a metal detecting robot. And the best thing that I could come up with, at least all the videos, I kept on going back to people that were building robotic lawnmowers, and seemed fairly simple. I mean, what people were doing, they were hooking up. In most cases, they were getting a hold of some motors from off of wheelchairs and attaching them to a frame somehow or another onto the lawnmower, and then they were hooking up a servo motors and such to try to control the steering of it, and then they would use an RC car remote control to control the robot. And what I kept on noticing was there was one huge problem with this idea is was that the remote control, when people would they would stand behind the lawnmower and they would steer it and they would keep going. They would go in a straight line, and then when they got down to the end of the row, they would turn back around, and of course now all the controls are reversed, and invariably they would get off course and they'd have to back the lawnmower up, and then they'd have to go forward, and eventually trying to keep straight lines was almost an impossibility, and they would just give up, and then they would just start, just zooming all over the yard. And so I thought to myself, well, this isn't going to work, trying to use an RC remote control for this robotic metal detector. And so I started thinking about other ways to actually control the robot, and started going through every possibility I could think of. Eventually, what I did is I decided that I think the best option would be was actually using your cell phone, the Bluetooth in your cell phone, to control the robot. And the reason for this was twofold. One, I figured, well, I can take and use the GPS to control the robot and have it go from point A to point B. Well, that didn't work out too good, because if you know anything about the GPS on the is it's not very accurate. You're probably talking about at best 1 meter, and probably more like 5 or maybe even 10 meters. So trying to mow your grass or do anything and it be 10 meters off, well, that's a huge variation there. So it would be impossible to use a GPS, just for controlling the robot. But also, I've also found out that with the robots is that you're going to have to have a compass involved as well. So what I finally decided on was to take and just use the compass to control the robot. In other words, have it go in a particular direction, and then when it gets to the end of the row, is to have press a button and have the robot just simply turn around, move over a foot or two, and then turn around and go back down the same path that it was just on. That way the lines would be nice and straight. So also the thing about it is a lot of these things that you want to have them where the robot is totally autonomous. And I thought, well, my robot is not going to be something with a really small motor. It's going to be a full size lawnmower if I would build it. And who in the world would want to go off and just leave that thing, totally unattended? It could, run over, the neighbor's pets or the neighbor's kids or whatever, and do some major damage. So you're going to have to be you would want to be out in the yard to at least monitor it and see what's going on, but you don't want to have to sit there and keep pressing, toggles back and forth trying to actually control the thing. You want to just be able to hopefully just press one button, have it turn around. When it gets to the end of the row, press the button, have it turn around, and keep repeating. So anyway, that's the idea that I finally chose to. I mean, because sitting there following the robot around with your RC remote control, I mean, why not just go ahead and push the lawnmower? I mean, it really doesn't save you that much energy if you're just going to be following the thing around. So anyway, that's what I finally decided to do. Well, over the next several months, after studying all this kind of stuff, I kind of broke it down into several smaller projects. One, I had to get some sort of a small remote control car and actually build the small thing, because what I wanted to do was actually break it into two separate entities. Have a small robot that I could control and put it around the house and be able to make quick modifications to it. And the other one, the other project would be, of course, a much larger robot. And because I didn't want to have this huge robot in the house trying to play around with it, because it would, bust down walls and break furniture. And so the smaller smaller RC car would definitely be the wise choice to go to, because you could quickly make changes to the programming of it. So anyway, the first step was to get some little small project car, and then attach a little motor controller to it, a battery pack, an Arduino, and have it do simple operations without the use of any kind of a Bluetooth control or anything like that. And then eventually, as the project would progress, I would add more functionality to it. Eventually, I would add Bluetooth control, and then eventually I would also add on a compass, so it could have a sense of direction. And then eventually, which would to me was seemed like an insurmountable project, was to actually add GPS to it. So this was over a course of probably 8 months to a year that I was trying to build this thing. So over the next few months, what I started doing was, like I say, I had divided the project into two completely different sections, and then I started also building up different areas of the project, mainly starting out with the smaller robot. Adding Bluetooth to it, then eventually compass, and then eventually the GPS. And so anyway, it was a very difficult, very long, involved, tedious project. I was getting, a good bit of information from YouTube, but there were some things that just weren't out there, and or if people had it, they weren't divulging it and showing you the code. So a lot of this stuff, it was kind of like just like beating your head against the wall trying to get this information. So anyway, you see this one right here, this video right here. This is me, and what I was doing was I would have a location near me. I would mark that GPS location, and then I would drive the little vehicle off, way off to the end of the driveway, and then I would tell it to come back to where I was at, and it would find its home location. And sometimes it would get it right. Sometimes it would kind of overcorrect and things. But it was pretty good. It was usually within sometimes it was like within a foot. Other times it would be like as much as about 5 meters off. But the more I worked with it, the more accurate that it got. So anyway, after that, I moved on and started working on the bigger robot, the one with the wheelchair motors in it here. And then I had to use of course, a larger motor control board and huge batteries to be able to control this thing. But I eventually got it to working and everything. The wheelchair motors are just huge, and they require a lot of power. So that's one huge downside to it, and it makes the robot extremely heavy. So that's one huge downside to this whole thing, is it is a very heavy, complicated project. But anyway, I was able to get this thing going. Trying to see if I can find the video here with the actual, yeah, here we go, with the robot with the metal detecting arm attached to it. And I have a lot of people asking me about this project. A lot of I think they're probably college students and university students trying to make this same project for themselves. And anyway, what it does, it uses a Garrett Ace 250 metal detector. It swings back and forth, trying to find a metal target under the ground. And when it does find something, it sends a signal back to the phone, the cell phone, letting you know that you've received a target. You can see right there, it says, got a target. And so anyway, it worked out pretty good. You see this long shaft here on the metal detector. That's where the um, uh, compass, the magnetometer, is located at. It needs to be up and really high away from the motors and away from any kind of electromagnetic interference or anything metal at all, as far as anything that's ferrous metal, because it will throw the compass off. So that's one thing you got to really keep in mind if you're trying to build this project. There was a lot of hurdles that I had to go through, and I'm hoping maybe I'll remember some of this stuff as I document all this. My hopes are with this project is to do a couple of things. One, I hope people will be able to take what code that I've written and the lessons that I've learned and take it and maybe build a metal detecting robot that they can use. I know a lot of the places, what they want to do is they want to take and build it to find uh, bombs, landmines that were left behind during, say, World War II. And so that would be a really good project for this, I think. With the GPS, even if it doesn't control the direction of it, you can use it to mark where the landmine is at. That way, you can go back and detonate it or whatever, remove it somehow or another. The other thing is, my main goal would be just to actually have this thing where you can metal detect and find targets under the ground and go back and dig them up and maybe find some treasure. But the other way I would like to see this thing used is maybe somebody actually does build a lawnmower that they can use and control it via their cell phone. And that's one thing about this whole project is using your cell phone. I figure everyone has an old cell phone or tablet laying around with Bluetooth control, and it makes this project cheaper because you figure if you use an RC remote, that's probably going to be 60, 70, $80, maybe even more to control your lawnmower or your metal taking robot. So, and anyway, it just offers you a little bit better controls and more things that you can do with it by using the cell phone. So anyway, what I plan to do is put this code out there over the next few weeks. I want to add more videos and everything to YouTube so that people can start their own project, maybe use something that I've had there, and maybe continue down this path, or maybe go and do something totally different. But anyway, I'll put it out there. I'll be uploading the code to the internet. I'll provide links and everything, and we'll see how it goes. So anyway, just keep checking back, and we'll see how it goes here. All right. Thanks for watching.